Gadgetzan. It feels like only yesterday that we had the One Night in Karazhan adventure come out. In fact, it was July, August time. But I kind of feel like I'm still getting used to those cards, and now all of a sudden we've got this new expansion coming out, which is a whole 132 cards in total, with some very, very interesting mechanics going on. Obviously, it's very exciting, and I just wanted to run through some of the cards. Well, I'm going to run through the legendary cards. I could go through all 132, but honestly, I think that might be a little bit exhausting. So I thought I'll just go through the legendaries that are out, or which are going to be coming out anyway. The expansion launches on for me in Europe, it launches on the 1st of December, I believe, or 2nd of December. It's all weird with time zones and things like that, so I'm just gonna wait for that Twitter message or whatever, and then probably have to wait another 3 days to actually manage to get onto Hearthstone. But I have my packs ready, and obviously there will be a pack opening video coming along as well, so that's something to look forward to. My Whispers of the Old Gods one is by far the highest viewed video on my channel, so I'm looking forward to doing another one, and I really enjoyed it as well, which is cool. I mean, who doesn't enjoy opening cards? It's great. So the Mean Streets of Gadgetzan is the 4th expansion that has come out. It's based around these kind of 3 crime families within Gadgetzan. The Grimy Goons, the Jade Lotus, and the Cabal. And there are now a new kind of mechanic within the game called multi-class cards, where 9 of the cards in the expansion belong to one of those family. The Grimy Goon cards can be used by Hunter, Paladin and Warrior only. The Cabal can be used by Mage, Priest and Warlock only, and the Jade Lotus can be used by Druid, Rogue and Shaman. Which is pretty cool, and there's also another kind of new mechanic called the Jade Golem, but I'll go into that a bit later when we talk about one of the legendaries which comes with it. So let's get into the actual cards themselves, I guess, because that's why we're here. We've got, we're going to go through all the legendaries, as I said. I believe there's 20 of them in total through there. I might be mistaken, but I believe there's 20. So the first one we're going to go through is called Don Hancho. He is he's the boss of the Grimy Goons. The Grimy Goons, as I said, can be used by Warrior, Hunter and Paladin. He is a 7 cost, 5 attack, 6 health minion. His battle cry is give a random minion in your hand +5/+5. That could be incredibly powerful, but it's fairly random. I mean, obviously the first thing which pops in my mind is the Brand's Bronzebeard synergy there, where you would be, I don't know if you would give one minion +10/+10, or you'd give 2 different minions +5/+5. I guess we'll find out soon enough. Either way, it's pretty impressive. A lot of the Grimy Goon stuff, things like Paladin and in particular, focus on buffing up minions, adding random minions in your hand, adding health and attack to those minions, doing things like that, and that's going to be a really interesting kind of card to play around with in deck building. This idea of just like buffing up all these minions is looking like it could be pretty cool. So the next card is called Kazakus. He is the leader of the Cabal. The Cabal cards can be used by Warlock, Mage and Priest only. He's probably, I think he was one of the first cards that was released. He's a 4 cost 3/3, which is obviously nothing special. what's interesting about Kazakus is his battle cry. So his battle cry is, if your deck has no duplicates, create a custom spell. I'll just pin up some of the spells you can create. They vary from 1 mana, 5 or 10 mana, and they do lots and lots of different things. So you can kind of create something which you could use in a particular situation. If you need to clear a board, you can do that. If you need a minion, you can do that. If you just want to buff what you've got on your board, you can do that. If you want to play something that turn and you've only got 1 mana, you can create a 1 mana potion. Same if you had 5 mana left after playing Kazakus, you could go for the 5 mana one, or you could go for the 10 and save it and play it next turn or later on in the game if you needed to. Very, very interesting card. What's also interesting about him is that it falls into this Reno Jackson type of deck where you can't have any duplicates of cards within your deck. Reno decks have been very popular. I love playing them personally. There's kind of nothing more satisfying than getting your health down very low, chucking down Reno and getting rich. And there's a couple of cards within the new Gadgetzan expansion which kind of focus on that. We'll see another one later, another legendary. But yeah, super interesting. I think we're gonna definitely see some Reno decks. I hope that I'm lucky enough to get some of these legendaries in my pack openings so that I can make those decks, because I love playing a good Reno deck. It's awesome, you know. Next up, we have the Jade Lotus. Jade Lotus gang can be played by, all their cards can only be played by Druid, Rogue, and Shaman. And we have Aya Blackpool, who is a 6 cost 5/3, which isn't very good stats. Obviously, it'd probably be better if she was a 3/5, but it's not really about her. It's about what she does. She, her battle cry and death rattle are summon a Jade Golem. What's a Jade Golem? It's a, well, it varies. So the first time you summon a Jade Golem, it's a 1/1. The second time is a 2/2. The third time it's a 3/3, and it just carries on going up. There are lots of cards within the Jade Lotus set which summon golems, and obviously if you use all of those, it's in particular a druid mechanic, I would say, but there's lots of cards in there which summon Jade Golems, and so the ability to build up and build up and build up, and then each time you get one you get a bigger minion is really powerful. It's very, very powerful, and I'm really sure we're going to see a lot of Jade Golem decks out there. It looks interesting. I hope that there isn't going to be one particular deck that's really powerful, or one particular class, and I think certainly within the first few weeks we'll just see lots of crazy decks coming out, which is always the most fun. But certainly Jade Golem looks like it could be a lot of fun. I think I'll enjoy playing that because it looks like a very kind of board control-esque deck, which is always pretty cool. I enjoy that type of style. Next up, we have the Druid class card, Kun the Forgotten King. He is a 10 mana 7/7, which is not great, but he has a choose one, gain 10 armor, or refresh your mana crystals. So essentially, if you chose to refresh your mana crystals, and you obviously had 10 because you're playing him, I guess, unless you used an innovate or something, then you have basically played him for free, which a 7/7 for free is, I mean, it's good. If you chose to go for the armor, maybe you're on low health, again, it's an option you can do. Maybe you can use him with Fandral and get both, but that would probably be quite difficult to actually see out, and I think that would be quite a lucky kind of one. But I could see him. I think I'd probably play him if I had him. Refresh your mana crystals. I mean, you're playing him for free, essentially, aren't you? essentially. So we'll have to wait and see, I guess. Next up, we have the Hunter legendary called Knuckles, and he looks like a very happy chappy, doesn't he? He's a 5 cost, 3 attack, 7 health. He's a beast as well. That's important with Hunter. After this attacks a minion, it also hits the enemy hero. So now you can go face with a Hunter without even going face. Brilliant, right? But in all seriousness, it's a good card. It is a really good card, I think. Certainly if you can buff him as well. There are some other cards around there. I think of something like Houndmaster, or there are new cards which buff beasts and things like that within the Hunter deck. You know, you can remove a minion and also do a decent amount of damage to your opponent as well. So, and a 5 cost 3/7 is actually pretty good. Obviously the attack's low, but I actually think they're decent stat lines. I don't know what anybody else thinks about that, but that would be a card I definitely would have in my Hunter deck, I think. Plus, also, he just looks really cool, doesn't he? So, I'll definitely be on there. Next up, we have the Mage deck, and the Mage legendary is a 7 cost 5/5 called Ink Master Sophia, whose battle cry is: if your deck has no duplicates, the next spell you cast this turn costs 0. So another Reno-esque mechanic there. No duplicates, the next spell you cast this turn costs 0. Obviously could be exceptionally powerful. Imagine dropping this down and then maybe you can Pyroblast your enemy. You know, you're only on turn 7. Maybe you can drop that and also use a Polymorph or a Fireball, or, you know, the limitations are, well, there are no limitations. Basically, the possibilities are endless. Maybe you could even use one of Caracas's 10 cost mana potions, chuck this down and then play that, and that could be a massive shift within your deck. I guess the only bad point would be if you drop down Inkmaster and use something which was like a complete board clear, then you might also lose Inkmaster as well. I really love the art on this card as well. It's really cool. Actually, a lot of the art in this is really cool. In fact, just all the art in Hearthstone is really cool, isn't it? So yeah, like this card a lot. Definitely would play it in a Reno deck, I think. Yeah. Next up, we have the Paladin class legendary called Wicker Flame Burn Bristle, which is an awesome name. I don't think it's the best name here. We'll see that later, I think, but it's a pretty cool name. He's a 3 cost 2/2. He has Divine Shield and Taunt. Damage dealt by this minion also heals your hero, so kind of the opposite to Knuckles, I'd say, in a way. Pretty good, because it might look like a very low statted kind of 3 cost, which in a way he is, but there are lots of buff cards in Paladin now. If you get this thing buffed, you know, you could essentially heal. You could certainly heal your hero, you know, a couple of times, and depending on how much you can get his attack to, that could be very useful, I think. The Divine Shield and Taunt is good. Divine Shield also obviously synergizes with a lot of other Paladin cards, so I think I would definitely play this card within a Paladin deck. Essentially, it's not a card you build a deck around, but certainly I would love to make a deck based around him, a Divine Shield deck maybe, with you know, slash buff deck as well. I think that would be really awesome. Next up, we have the Priest. Now, Priest is very interesting because the Priest has been the weakest deck, I guess the weakest character or class for a little while now, really, which is a shame because it's one of my favourite classes, weirdly enough. I don't know, maybe I just like to root for the underdog a little bit. But certainly we're seeing in the Gadgetzan expansion a kind of resurgence, bit for Priest. I wouldn't say it's going to make Priest the best, but there are certainly, I think, going to be some interesting decks, shall we say, coming out from Priest. The Priest class legendary is called Raza the Chained. He's or she, I don't know, could be either one, I guess, but a 5-cost, 5/5, whose battle cry: if your deck has no duplicates, your hero power costs 0 this game. Wow. First thing which comes to my head, and probably to yours too, is Shadow Priest. The ability to deal damage with no mana cost for an entire game is very powerful, and the fact that this is a fairly low cost legendary at only 5 just backs that up as well. I really hope I get this legendary to be able to try that out. I don't know how competitive it will be, because it makes it a very slow. It's a very slow deck, if you see what I mean. You could easily, if that's your aim, is to kind of make a Shadow Priest deck with Raza, you kind of feel like that slows everything down a little bit, and maybe you're going to get overwhelmed by Jade Columns, things like that by that point, and your 2 or potentially 3 damage a turn for free is not going to do too much. But I guess if you combine it with other things, then that's super powerful. Super powerful. And again, we got the Reno mechanic there, which is cool, definitely. Next up, we have the Rogue class. The Rogue legendary card is the 3-cost 2/3 Shaku the Collector. Shaku the Collector has stealth, and whenever this attacks, add a random card to your hand from your opponent's class. It's probably the least interesting of all the cards out there, but that doesn't make it bad. We see this mechanic come out in Whispers of the Old God, and more in Karazhan as well, where you're stealing your class cards from your opponent. There are good road decks out there, special things which combine it with Ethereal Peddler, and yeah, it's decent. I think it will see a place in those sort of Ethereal Peddler decks for sure. It's not great stats. I guess we'll have to wait and see. I wouldn't call it boring. It's not boring by any chance, by any kind of stretch of the imagination, but it's not gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna build a deck around this sort of card. So next up we have the Shaman, the bane of everybody's existence, Shaman. So the class legendary for Shaman is the 5-cost 5/5 White Eyes, which is a taunt, and its death rattle is shuffle the Storm Guardian into your deck. What is the Storm Guardian? The Storm Guardian is a 10/10 minion, basically, which I guess it's good. I know there are cards within Shaman, I've forgotten what they're called. Yeah, I can't remember, but I know there's ones which you can like kill one of your own minions and bring it back to life. Obviously that'd be powerful, because then you could get 2 Storm Guardians, but yeah, I don't know how well this will do. We'll have to wait and see. I don't think it's a broke card of any way. I mean, the thing about Hearthstone at the minute is when you have a particular card on deck, there are many ways you can remove one card. So just giving something like a Shaman a really powerful card is not essentially going to break the game. I guess when you combine that with lots of other things that are going on, maybe it will, but we'll see. With a lot of these things, you just don't know until a few weeks down the line, and you see what kind of comes about. Next up we have Warlock. Warlock's one of my favourite classes as well. I used to play it so much, but then kind of fell out of favour with it a little bit. I just used to like the kind of demon synergies and stuff like that. that. I never played Zoo or Handlock or anything like that, any of the good decks basically. I just used to play like Jiraxis decks and things like that because I just found them a lot of fun. So the legendary class card for Warlock is Cruel the Unshackled. A 9-cost 7/9 demon whose battle cry is if your deck has no duplicates, summon all demons from your hand. It's kind of like Deathwing, the Dragon Lord card, that I think is the Death Rattle, is summon all the dragons from your hand, whereas this has the battle cry, summon all demons from your hand. I don't know which is better, and I'll explain why. If you do this battle cry and you summon all the demons from your hand, and then your opponent has something which wipes the board, you're in a lot of trouble there because you've just drawn everything from your hand and chucked it on the board. If you're relying on battle cries for demons as well, which a lot of the time you do, they're not going to trigger. Obviously, as a kind of finisher card to overwhelm your opponent, say they've got a few cards left or whatever, if you can drag a couple of minions onto the board, that's really good. So I think it could see a place, but I don't know if it's going to be a game-breaking card. I would like it, and I'd love to build some demon decks around it for sure. There are some other demons which they've added into Warlock as well, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I like it. I just don't know if it's going to be any good. We'll have to wait and see. The last class legendary card we've got is Hobart Grapplehammer. That's a pretty cool name as well, but again, not the best name, as we'll see later on. Hobart Grapplehammer is a 2-cost 2/2. His battle cries give all weapons in your hand a deck +1 attack. That's really good. There's no doubt about that. That is really, really good. If you're playing a weapon warrior, that is super good. Things like obviously your Fiery War Axe, Arcanite Reapers, Gorehowl. That's really, really strong. 2-cost 2/2. He's nice and low cost. If you get him early, you chuck him down. He's not gonna do much for you when you chuck him down, but certainly if you're playing some sort of control warrior, I think that's gonna be an inclusion in that deck. But I don't play a lot of control warriors, so I could just be an idiot. Okay, next up we have all of the neutral cards. Neutral legendary cards, anyway, we're going to go through. So the first one is the 9-cost 5/4 Mayor Noggin Fogger. Mayor Noggin Fogger. Yeah, that's it. All targets are chosen randomly. I don't think this is a very good card. I don't know, it's weird. I don't know why it costs 9 and it's a 5/4. It doesn't seem like what it does is actually that strong. I guess it is a bit crazy and that's good, but yeah, it's weird to say the least. Very weird. It's one of those ones where I think if you get it, you'd use it once and then you'd be like, yeah, I'm probably not going to do this anymore. Next up we have Madame Goya, a 6-cost 4/3, whose battle cry is choose a friendly minion, swap it with a minion in your deck. Very interesting card indeed. Very, very interesting. Especially late game, you could take an injured card, you can switch it with something else, and then you'll get that card back. It's kind of like the Brewmaster, but obviously it goes back to your deck and you're swapping it over, so a bit more powerful. And at 6 cost, not crazily expensive, so I think it might see some play. I'd like to try out Madame Goya for sure, but obviously that depends on whether or not I'm lucky enough to open a pack with her in there. Next up we have Rathion, a 6-cost 4/5. This is a really interesting card, I think, which we will see on many many highlight reels. Rathion has Taunt, and the battle cry is draw cards until you draw one that isn't a dragon. How many people are going to mill themselves with this card, I wonder? Obviously, if you're building a dragon deck, it's pretty good. You can draw a card. Maybe you can draw a couple of cards. Maybe you're going to draw 9 cards till you get that dragon. I would love to play with this card because it's just one of those ones where it's either going to win you the game or you're going to crash and burn spectacularly, which is kind of awesome. Yeah, so I mean, a 6 cost 4 or 5 is okay as well. I think the Taunt's pretty okay as well. It can kind of get you out of a hole. I mean, if you're very low on cards, it could be really good. You know, you could essentially draw 9 cards, which would be exceptionally powerful. Of course, you could mill yourself and die. So, who knows? I don't know how it works if you're actually in fatigue. I imagine you just kill yourself, which I'm sure we'll see at some point. I'm sure I'll do that at some point, probably, if I'm lucky enough to get this card. Next up, we have Finja, the Flying Star. Love that name, Finja. 5 cost, 2/4 Murloc, who has stealth. Whenever this attacks and kills a minion, summon 2 Murlocs from your deck. I'm seeing a lot of synergy there with the Anyfin Paladin, I think. Imagine you drop this down, turn 5, you haven't drawn any Murlocs, which is frequently an issue in Anyfin Paladin because you generally only have 4 in there. And you're going to attack something, even if you kill Finja, as long as you kill that minion, although that is the decisive action on it. You have to kill the minion, so the minion would have to have less than 2 health. But I guess you could kind of work around it, or you could also buff Finja as well. Maybe you could Kings it in an Anyfin deck, or just give it extra health. But yeah, whenever you kill it, you drag out those 2 Murlocs. Maybe you're going to get a War Leader, or 2 War Leaders, and then suddenly you've buffed up your Finja and buffed everything up, and you've got a really powerful board. So it could be good, but I think it's quite expensive for the stat line 2/4, even though it's got stealth. It's pretty strong. But we'll see. I mean, if you think about turn 6, how many things on turn 6 will have 2 health? Probably nothing. Maybe you can damage something and then attack with Finja, so there is always that, I guess. But it could be super situational. We'll have to wait and see. Next up, we've got Genzo the Shark. This is a 4 cost 5/4. Whenever this attacks, both players draw until they have 3 cards. I could see this being good for like aggressive decks who may be running their cards down low, like aggressive hunter decks, even something like a shaman deck or a zoo deck. A 5/4 for 4 is okay. It's not bad. I guess the thing is it has to attack, so that might be the issue. Of course, it might also work in your opponent's favour as well. So there's that problem. I don't know if we'll see this card or not. We'll have to wait and see, I guess. I hope we do. Next up we have Sergeant Sally, who is a 3 cost 1/1. Sergeant Sally's death rattle will deal damage equal to this minion's attack to all enemy minions. Sergeant Sally is essentially an explosive sheep in a policeman's costume. I mean, again, if you can buff her, she could be really, really powerful, but otherwise you're only doing one damage to all your, to everything in your opponent's deck, so, or everything in your opponent's board. So maybe not that powerful. I guess we'll have to wait and see it again. How much these buffing decks are going to work, we'll have to kind of wait and see there, I guess. Next up we have the Auction Master Beardo. A 3 cost 3/4. After you cast a spell, refresh your hero power. I guess it could be good. I don't know too much about that. guess Warlock might see a nice bit of play out of it. But super situational is going to have to stay on the board to actually. I mean, that's the problem. Anything which has to stay on the board for you to get its effect is a risk, because your opponent could potentially just wipe it out, and then But at 3/4 for 3 cost, it's not terrible. It's okay. So maybe you take that risk. I don't know. Next up, we have a card which I think is going to see a lot of play. Is Patches the Pirate. 1 cost, 1/1. He has charge. After you play a pirate, summon this minion from your deck. So, Pirate Warrior decks or Pirate Rogue decks, I think this will be an auto include. May not sound like a lot, but that 1 attack could be vital, and also you get the pirate synergy from having another pirate on your deck as well. Sorry, on your board from your deck. So, yeah, I think that's going to be a really, really good card. Which I think it might not be like a kind of like game-winning card, but as in like that big card you drop down and your opponent's going to concede. But I think it might be, when you look back on some games, you might be like, yeah, you know what, that did make a bit of difference there. That allowed me to get this synergy off, or that thing off. So yeah, I think that's going to be a good card. So thank you so much, guys, for joining me on this little look through the new legendary cards in the Mean Streets of Gadgetzan expansion, which is coming very, very soon. Probably even out by the time you're watching this, actually. And I'm looking forward to doing a lot of content on it as well, so stay tuned for that. But thank you so much for joining me, and I'll catch you guys very soon.